I I think it's so it's so incredibly important what you're saying for the time you're saying it for us, for Argentina, which, we have the ARICAME. The ARICAME is the institute that United Nations wants you to create, each country to create, if you're going to deal with THC. Yeah. So if you're going to deal with exporting THC or psychoactive cannabinoids, then you have to build an institute for monitoring these operations. Yeah. And that's what they've done. So, they included hemp in the same thing. They included hemp in the same law.
Cocaine and
which
heroin.
Was a big mistake. No. In the same law, they passed a medical marijuana initiative that has to do with big operations of medical, a medical field, medical marijuana, but in a huge scale. So they passed this law. But then in the same law, they added also the activity of cáñamo. So we tried to explain that when we're talking about cáñamo, we're talking about huge extensions, right? Big extensions of land, because otherwise it doesn't have no sense to make the operation, right? So slowly they're getting to it. The government is slowly trying to understand what's going on. We didn't have many projects going on last year. We were one of the ones. We only had 2 in the whole country. So, my group was one, and then we had another group. So we were only 2 of us. And we believe we're going to make 4 hectares this year, It takes a little bit of money to make each hectare, but I believe that we're going to do something nice about it. We're going to work with the hemp nuts to make, the hemp seed oil, maybe to mix it with other things, like, I don't know. We have to do R&D, but maybe we can mix it with olive oil and with garlic, maybe. I don't know, make a couple of products and see what happens in the market. Everybody wants to do something with hemp, but nobody has a market, nobody has a project, nobody has idea what they're going to do with the material, So there's a big excitement, but we have to build the market. So, and we have to promote, different products and build the market. And, particularly myself and my group, I have a nice group of people, with Rosie, my fiance, and these other 4 guys that were working together. We're so proud of what we're doing because we did it with, very little money, with a big effort, but we have the feel, we had a bunch of things now, and I think we're doing great. I think we're doing a historical thing because, we didn't have hemp for 55 or 60 years, maybe in the early 70s was when the last crops of hemp were made here in the province of Buenos Aires, this huge plain land, because we have this huge plain land. But where we did the hemp field is almost like the door, opening the door to Patagonia, it's the entrance. It's way down south from the province. And, the soil is not rich, it's not the best soil. It's Patagonia soil. It's like a kind of desert, but it was a great, it was a great experience for us because, all the people, the countryside people that work, people that make onions, they make garlic, they make all type of veggies, in big scale in those areas, right? They came to us to see the crop, and they could not believe, they were completely amazed. They were blown away by just observing the plant in late April. They couldn't believe the time there. They couldn't believe how green it was still. And they said, oh man, this is incredible. We want to do this. If this is giving us more money than onions, then we want to do this, So let's do something. Let's make a cooperative, let's do something. So it's a it's a big job, It's a big job because we have to create
a lot of
market, we have to
expertise.
create the production.
Takes a lot of expertise.
The production. Yeah.
It takes time to build up a market, and it's fraught with risk because you've got to start small because you don't have the right resources, and you've got to ramp up and do it successfully. Financing the small, financing the medium, financing the growth to the large.
Yeah.
There's many places to go wrong in that process, but I would recommend that you concentrate on the food. The food is the easiest thing, and it's also the biggest here in the United States in terms of hemp.
Getting
hemp
big.
food, economically, and from Canada and the United States, hemp food is the largest segment. It's much larger than anything that can be done with the fiber right now.
And it's organic, remember it's organic food, right? So
and there are certain machines, if you guys need, you can get them from China. I can introduce you to mutual, so can Don. You want a machine that dehulls the hemp because the hemp seed is very small and it's got a hard outer coat, and inside is the nutty meat and that's where most of the protein is. And so hemp foods are best when you take that. Yeah, hemp hearts, exactly. That's the most.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, because this current year and last year, our whole experience was for reproducing seeds, because we don't have seeds, so we have to reproduce seeds. So we have about 5 or 6 kilos, right? Mm-hmm. So, for 40 hectares, the 5 or 6 kilos, which are, they are in good shape. You put them in the ground and they pop up like nothing. They're very germinative level, a huge one. So the question is, we have this plant that has barely 0.7 THC. It's okay because the government says it's going to be 1 point. Less than 1.2 THC. So that's reasonable,
better.
Yeah, it's better. So my question is, if we don't want to do nothing with the leftovers of when you take off the seeds of the flower, because the terpenes are going away, and most of the trichomes and whatever you find there are not in good shape, because you have to separate the seeds, which is what you want. So the waste product would be all this material, right? It might have a little THC and it might have a little CBD, but it's not a big deal. So, I have my opinion what to do with it, but I want to hear what would you do with a whole bunch of stuff that, it's a sub-product, and, you're not going to use it for medicine. It's not a high quality material for medicine. So what would you do with it?
I would extract the useful products out of that. You can extract, CBD, CBG. CBG has all of the medicinal properties of CBD and most of the ones of THC too. CBG is the mother cannabinoid. When the cannabis plant starts producing cannabinoids, and cannabinoids are, chemicals that are unique to cannabis, and THC is one of those. And so, back when you and I were kids, we only thought there were 4 cannabinoids. They've discovered more and more. Now it's about 150 different cannabinoids. But, the market has looked at CBD, but really CBG has more medical utility. So and you can extract that actually from the leaves as well. So I would just put it into extraction or compost it to make more dirt if you're not going to do that,
Right.
and take the fiber and make products out of that as well. You know, you can make hempcrete is the easiest one. You can also make hemp wood. I know I gave you some samples of hemp wood when I was down there in Resistencia in Chaco a couple of years ago. And so
yes,
that is.
And what about bioplastics?
Yeah, well, you know, there's a company here in America that is making a compostable bioplastic that's made out of marijuana stems and cornstarch, and that turns back into dirt. If we were using these bioplastics that are completely recyclable, I mean, we're not talking about taking it to some machine to recycle it. We're talking about putting it in the ground and it turns back into dirt. That's what hemp plastic is. I know I gave you some of those straws and utensils as well. And that is biodegradable. And if we use that instead of the petrochemical plastics, we wouldn't have all the plastic pollution all over the earth and clogging our seas. So the fiber, though, I would use the fiber. I would extract the seeds. I would look into using the roots as well. And you know, you're growing at a small level, so you're talking about an experimental crop. Try to bring in agronomists from your local university.
Well, you know, with 5 hectares, 5 hectares means, you know, maybe like, I don't know, maybe 200,000 plants.
Yeah, yeah. It could easily be that many, especially if you're growing them very close together, like you need to for hemp.
Yeah, 40 centimeters for flowering.
Yeah. And in
you know, so this is going to be a huge amount of seeds, you know.
Yeah.
So after we harvest, like the 2024 harvest in April is going to give us a big, huge amount of seeds, and we're going to be ready to do something with it, you know, maybe to share with other neighbors in the same area that want to experiment with hemp and make the whole thing, the volume of the crop will be bigger in the area, and that would be beneficial for us if we want to start an industry.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, you do. I know.
Yeah, definitely. If it goes okay with the R&D, with all the projects we have for food, we also have one for also with honey, because we spoke to Andrea Herman, and she's talking about the bees getting pollen, you know.
Bees love hemp pollen. There are a lot of different honey products here in the United States now, and it's very beneficial for the bees. Yeah,
and you know, I kind of, with my partners, we were discussing the facts, because actually, you know, the bees go around the flower, the hemp flower, when there's no other flower around, because of this time period I'm talking to you about. You know, that you can go up to late April here, and by late April, none of the other crops are still alive. They're all gone.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, naturally they're away. They're gone. You know, and the hemp crop is still there, waiting for harvest. You know.
Right. It'll last until, you know, the start of winter, you know, right up into the early months of winter.
Yeah, because it's unbelievable, because it's a domestic plant. It's, you know, but it's domesticated, but it's unbelievable how fast it can go feral, you know.
Oh yeah, it wants to grow. If the seeds hit the ground, they will grow. They've had trouble wiping it out in places where it had been cultivated here in the United States. In fact, on the state
council, and here in Argentina too. Yeah. You know what happened here? And you know, the last crop was in a place called Howdy, with this man from Belgium. He had a huge fabric. He was making blue jeans. He was making sheets for beds. He was making a whole bunch of things out of hemp and lino, you know, and flax. So when he finished like in 1972, 1973. But his operation, his big fabric was buying from the neighborhood. You know, they were buying from all the country people around that they were making hemp for him. And so when he stopped, they had no market for the hemp. So they had wild hemp for a couple of years. And so all the hippies of those days, you know, the hippie movement, all the singers, all the poets, all these crazy guys that, you know, the underculture movement came to this small town inside the province, and they were searching for the hemp plant, you know, until the military dictatorship showed up, you know, and that was bad for everybody because they kidnap and kill many people. But, you know, I can picture that very particular moment where this old train stations were all full of hippies going to the fields, you know. I can't believe this happened, but there's many countless testimonies of all this happening, you know, so it was unbelievable.
It reminds me of what happened there in Chile, where we went
same
to
thing.
the area that the people were going to the fields when cannabis was first becoming popular in the 60s. I saw a question that popped in via text from one of our viewers out there. And if they want to read it, Paul? Yeah, I can read it. If they type it in English, I'll be happy to try to answer it. Cool. Let me tell you, though, there's another topic we didn't talk about with China, and that is the language. You know, hemp has been cultivated for prehistoric times, and China is the world's oldest still existing culture for 5,500 years. So their word for hemp is ma. And ma, you know, in our countries is spelled M-A. But in China, ma has different characters for different meanings. So, you know, ma is mother in almost every language. Mama, you know, is mother. It's a very basic sound that's associated with motherhood, but it's not the same character as the ma in hemp. And there are other words that also use the word. It said I was muted.
Yeah,
but I've unmuted myself.
I'm sorry.
Okay. But the
word you were saying
ma,
about the sound of the sound of the
exactly. So there's a separate character that's used for hemp or cannabis. So the word, there's different tones in the Chinese language. So when you talk about mother, they use the first tone, which is one steady high pitch. Ma, that means mother. Where if you talk about, oh, we'll have to come back to that question. It went away too quick. If you talk about the second tone, it starts high and goes low. Ma, that means horse. And the third tone is kind of a warble. It goes high and low. Ma, that is a question mark that goes at the end of a sentence. For instance, if you want to say hello in Chinese, it's you good or ni hao. But if you want to say how are you, it's ni hao ma. But hip is the fourth tone. And it starts low and goes high. Ma, that is hemp. So you can see one of the most basic sounds, and it's shared by other very important concepts. The question mark, your mother, horse, and of course, cannabis. Very essential things. So the character for hemp, ma, is used in combination for other words. So you will find the character for hemp in the word for sparrow, because sparrows are the birds that love hemp seed. You will find it in the word for anesthesia, for laziness, for industriousness, for troublesome. And it's also the character is used for the very famous tile board game mahjong that the Chinese people play. So they would smoke their ma and play mahjong.
Wow, unbelievable.
Now I saw a question pop up in there, but it went away before I could read it.
La pregunta. Somebody's going to ask a question. A ver. Estamos esperando, ¿no, Mariam?
Hello?
Yes.
Do you
There
hear
you
me?
go. Yes.
Hello, Mag. Hello, Paul.
Hi.
Thank you very much for this talk, and this information is very important for me. And I have a good question for Paul about the topic of growing hemp in Argentina and the potential from this industry. The question is, which method did you recommend from your experience when two different projects exist, but they have different objectives, but they want or they need to coexist together? For example, one project, like when the objective is for food, like seeds, and another project when the objective is to make a good quality essential plant oils, and this plant cannot be pollinated. Which you think about it?
The cross-pollination.
Yeah. So if you want to grow a crop for the flowers, you don't want the male flowers there, it's best to grow from clones. And as Mike has seen, if you start your plants early, say you started your clone right now, then you put it outdoors in October or no, when you have more than 14 hours of daylight, then it will not flower. So I
Yes.
would start my clones indoors. You know, I'm in the Northern Hemisphere. I would start them in January and February, where I would say you would want to start yours in July and August. And then I plant them in bigger containers so that when I put them outside, they're already 1.5 to 2 meters tall. And that would be May here. That would probably coordinate with November in Argentina, once you have more than 14 hours of daylight. And so starting with a small plant that has now gotten quite large, they can grow much, much larger. Mike and I worked in our Oregon and Washington cannabis fields with plants that were 12 to 15 feet tall, or 4 to 5 meters tall. And so I would plant them 2 meters apart. You know, I'd put out my plant that was 1.5 meters tall, and then I'd spread, and they would completely fill up that 2 meters, or actually it was more like 4 meters. You want them to be able to grow out big. And so I would plant them, give them each 2 meters or about 4 meters apart from each other, starting with plants that are already so old. But you'd want to keep them separate from the industrial hemp.
That's the question. Which method do you recommend in distance or in time to be separated? How much distance? What in this place we have a crop like it's for seeds, so we need to pollinate our seeds, the plants to make seeds, and in the other projects not to be pollinated. Which distance is necessary to not be in problems?
Yeah, about 3 kilometers but you can also grow in the same area if you have it in a greenhouse. You just have to filter the incoming air. So they don't have to be that far apart if you can throw a greenhouse or over the top of the flowering varieties for the flower and the oils.
A pollen filter then, and greenhouse.
Yeah, exactly. Filter out that pollen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No, that's a very contentious issue here in Oregon, because hemp farmers want to grow very close to cannabis farmers, marijuana flower farmers. So the marijuana flower farmers get very angry at the hemp farmers that let their plants go to pollen. But at the same time, we need that pollen to make the seeds. And you just have to take into account what's going on in your surrounding community.
So Paul, so let the people know about your show. I mean, I'm doing this. I did this type of interview, this type of chat, with Senor Jorge Cervantes, which it was amazing. It was really cool. We're gonna put it together. We're gonna in the coming days, we'll probably upload it to YouTube, and we'll probably do the same with you, but maybe translating everything, editing and translating. But so let everybody know about your show, and I guess that we're going to continue with these type of interviews. Maybe we'll have you in the near future again, probably. I want to interview all our friends, like Mila. Mila is on our guest list also. And, of course, all the people that we've been together these last couple of years, doing this, actually, basically doing the same, trying to spread the word around cannabis, around this miracle plant, and so what I wanted to say about here in Argentina, we are delighted that we are one of the few crazy people that believe in the hemp food, and so we're doing this in this part of the country, which I think is amazing because, the experience from this year's harvest was really incredible, for people that, because we are used to hang around with people from our movement, which, we're surrounded by plants and, and people who we talk the same language about marijuana, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But where this crop was held, it was people that, really countryside people, from the inner country, and they didn't know shit about nothing about marijuana, but they never saw the plant before. It's, oh, this is a lovely plant. I love the little seeds. It was kind of innocent, in a way, and it was really an incredible experience. We have a lot of material that we've been filming, and we've been taking pictures, and yeah. And also I wanted to tell you about this, Paul. I have a maybe one of the last questions for you here. So, as you know, I'm always invited to be judge of these kind of competitions about which is the most potent flower around. You've been with me in a couple of places. We've been together. Yeah. So I was invited in Santa Fe, in a small, tiny little town, that's called Calcaraña. These are plains. This is like the center of the country, but not the center. I think we went through when we were traveling together, but this is like the center of the country, but these are plains. There's no elevation here. These are, completely plains. So I've been around these small little towns, but many of these, they have, more than 100 years old. I mean, many of them were, 1870 something. They were founded by those years. And for example, I went to one of them that was founded in 1878 or so. And then the pharmacy was from 1887, right? And the pharmacy had this neat furniture, really high class old furniture that was holding all these glasses, all these jars, right? And they had cannabis jars, of course, cáñamo indiano, with the word indiano, not even indico, indiano, right? Cáñamo indiano. And then they had, they had like these shelves. How do you say it when you open and you take it out, like how do you say it? Like you open the box,
the cabinet.
You close it. Yeah.
Cabinet,
they had a couple of a cabinet. They had an open and shutting cabinet with a little sign that said what is supposed to belong inside, right? and one of the signs said, cigarros anti-asthma, cigars for asthma, right? And you know, the only cigars available were the Indiana ones, and the Indiana ones were the Grimaud trademark from France.
From France, yeah.
Yes,
I have some of those containers, these little yellow tins with cannabis cigarettes for asthma.
Okay, so after me giving you all this background, here goes the question for you, okay? So we have these pharmacies inside these towns. You know, we have like 7 or 8 towns, but I have already, you know, located 3 pharmacies that have hemp jars and that have hemp documents, because, you know, these old men, they brought the profession from Europe, and they installed themselves inside the country, and they started these new professions, you know, like pharmacies in the old days, and they kept record of everything. So I believe that the original records, which, you know, may contain, you know, the hemp preparations and all that, that is available in these pharmacies, in these old pharmacies. So I have 3 of them pointed out, right? I had 3 of them. So the question is for you as a collector of all these old items, you know, you've been collecting for a big amount of years of your life, you've been collecting these items. So if it's worth for me to install myself in the area and go and visit these pharmacies and do all, you know, the groundwork around an investigation around what happened, where the origin of all these materials or all these, you know, how they prepare everything. We want to know everything that we could know if we investigate. What's your opinion about my idea?
I think we should definitely know that cannabis was part of the pharmacopoeia. You know, our mutual friend Don Wirtschafter would definitely want to see that and know about that in terms of his museum, the Cannabis Museum. I know they're one of your sponsors here for your program. So
isn't it amazing that says cigarros anti-asthma? Isn't that?
Oh yeah, it's amazing, especially given that you know, we had these myths that marijuana caused people to go crazy and kill themselves. But you know, the only way they could do that was to change the name. They couldn't say cannabis, they couldn't say hemp. They had to say it's this deadly new thing called marijuana, picking up on the slang word in Mexico, you know, from that Pancho Villa song, La Cucaracha again. And then you also asked me a moment ago about my TV show. I've actually been doing a cable access television show here in Portland since October of 1996. So 27 years almost, and I've done 1,155 shows so far. I just recorded a new one. We're going to record some more next week. So you've been a guest on the show probably a dozen times. Our friend Jorge Cervantes has been a guest on the show a dozen times. The late, great Jack Herrer was a guest on the show a dozen times. But
So I hope that your people can see this, that what we're doing here, you know, be great, because they'll have an insight of Argentina. You know, this internet thing is something incredible that we can communicate, and we can, you know, tell us what's going on in each part of the world. It's unbelievable that we can do this. If
you put the English version of this up on YouTube, we will use it for an episode of our show too. So it will publicize yours. Put up the English version as well, and we will definitely.
Well, I believe the only version available is this one right now, because, you know, we've been speaking English, you know.
Right. You haven't translated. It's going to take some time to translate all that. Maybe I know there are programs that will take English voice and translate it to text. And so if you can take that and then take that text and then translate it to Spanish, maybe you have subtitles ready to go.
We've been working that out, but with no success yet. but I believe that we can, we'll be able to do it in the future. Anyways, I practiced my English. I hope I hope it was understandable for everybody there.
Yeah, no, you're perfectly.
It's been great. It's been great that I learned this when I was a kid. How to speak and write and everything. That the United States, Uncle Sam kind of educated me too, and I try to do my best for my Argentinian fellowships. For all the potheads around here that. We've been doing a lot, and now it's kind of difficult to keep track of everybody talking, trying to speak out there, so it's an interesting time, especially now that we've done this hemp operation, which for me was amazing, because after all these years, it was like a dream come true, to work with a plant that we love in big scale, we never done this before here, and it was.
Uh-oh, I lost you. Hey, Mike. Maybe his battery died. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come on your show, Mike. I'm sorry it ended so abruptly. I hope you're okay. I'm sure you are. I'm not sure if anyone else out there can see it. Let me mess with my screen here a little bit. Okay, well, apparently Mike lost his connection. I appreciate you folks out there watching, and nice to meet you or see you again.
Nice to meet you both. Thanks for all information. Keep spreading the good voice about the green medicine.
I will. I've had the pleasure of coming there to Argentina back in 2015. Oh, he's coming back for Expo Days, and then a year and a half ago for the Industrial Hemp Conference in Resistencia. But I think Mike and I both are going to be in Sao Paulo in Brazil, September 15th, 16th, and 17th, I believe. Hey, Mike, great. You're back. I can't hear you, though. Unmute your screen. You got to go in there and unmute it. Now you're connecting to audio. Okay. It says we lost his connection again. He's back. Now unmute yourself, Mike.
Okay,
there.
I'm back. I'm
You're
sorry.
back.
Yeah, we've been disconnected. I don't know what happened.
Internet. You never know about the internet.
Yeah, but we've done great so far, I guess.
Yeah, it's been working out well.
We wrap it up.
Okay.
Okay, Paul. So tell us about your show again. I don't know if that was recorded.
Well, it's Cannabis Common Sense, and we have an archive of starting at about show 300, going back to about 2001. I started the show in 1996. Back then, there was no streaming internet. So you can find it at youtube.com/Cannabis Common Sense. That's youtube.com/Cannabis Common Sense. It's also on Facebook.
So, Paul, go ahead.
On Facebook, it's facebook.com/Restore Him. All, of course, in English. And that's our largest video audience right now. We're on cable television here in Oregon and Washington, but on the internet, the Facebook page has a little bit over 600,000 followers. So we'll usually get a few hundred people watch it there on Facebook.
Okay, so once we edit this chat that we had, we'll pass it on so everybody can share it there.
Sure. And you can find me at
Sure.
D. Paul Stanford, just D as in dog, Paul Stanford,
Right.
at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, all of that and more.
So Paul, how can the regular folks get involved in the Environmental Hemp Forum? How can they do that? I mean, we should find a way that people can participate somehow of, giving thoughts about how can
Well,
we spread the
educate them.
industry.
And use hemp paper and hemp plastics, and this hemp wood products. I think we were talking about the guitars made out of that. Just look at
Yes.
hempwood.com for these new wood products that are harder than hickory and harder than oak. We don't have to cut down trees for paper. We don't have to cut down trees for building materials. Hemp can supply all of that. We need to save the forests, what's left of those forests, for the animals and peoples that live there. And so I just encourage your audience to use more hemp products, find out about hemp foods, and realize that hemp food is probably the easiest part of the industry to start with. Outside of hempcrete and hemp
Right.
foods are the
Yeah.
easiest ones to start with.
And even the hempcrete can be a sub-product.
Yeah, that's right.
So-
You can grow it for the
Senor
seeds
Paul,
and use the stems.
Senor, where is, in your opinion, a place to do the third environmental forum worldwide? I mean, where would be a nice place for you to do the whole thing again? Maybe United States?
The United States, Argentina would be good.
What about Bolivia?
Bolivia would be good, I think.
Because,
Ecuador might.
Senor Ben Drunkers could make it to Bolivia,
Oh, okay. Well, good. Maybe that's where we should do it. It's very
Yes, I
high
think we should do it
elevation there.
Yeah,
Very high elevation.
yeah. We have friends that can help us organize it in Bolivia, I think.
Good, good. I've had a lot
So,
of
Paul,
in Ecuador, neighboring Ecuador. I've had a lot of contacts recently.
Ecuador will be a nice place as well,
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we already done it in that particular part of the world, which is the Far East.
Sure. And then our
now
friend
I think we
Kiama
should
in
move
Kenya.
to some-
Yeah,
Kenya
would be
Kenya-
another great place
yeah.
because Africa
And
is probably the only
what?
place where the population will continue to grow over the next 50 years. So
But
we need
there
to,
are other countries passing legislations to grow now,
yeah,
in Africa right
Yeah.
now.
yeah, Kenya
So-
would be a good spot.
So Paul, I just want to thank you and, give my regards to Tricia, and I hope to see you soon. And
Yeah, I hope to see you there in Brazil for the Expo Cannabis Brazil in Sao Paulo, coming up on September 15th, 16th, and 17th.
You've been an inspiration for many of us, and I want to thank you for all your job, for your hard work, and and hope we can share the stage again together. Yeah, maybe
I look
in
forward to it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me on, and keep working to restore hemp.
Yeah, restore him. Yeah, let's do it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks to your friends.